With the trade deadline approaching, it is time for the San Francisco 49ers to get active and start making calls because they need some additional help to add specifically to this defense. As we know, it's been a big point of emphasis in the 49ers community about the lack of pass rush and sacks from this 49ers defensive line. So I think it will be important for the San Francisco 49ers to go out and make a move. We've seen the San Francisco 49ers make moves at the deadline for basically all the last couple years that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have taken over. In regards to the defensive line, I think of when they traded a fifth round pick for Charles Omenihu and how much of an impact he made on the defensive line. But I think the San Francisco 49ers need to take it up even another notch to go get a higher caliber player. And I think these two players should be in consideration for the San Francisco 49ers in regards to a trade. Chase Young and Montez Sweat from the Washington Commanders. Jordan Schultz of Bleacher Report is reporting that both of these players can be made available via trade if the offer is right. This is what Schultz is saying. He's saying it's probably going to take a second or third round pick to get Chase Young or Montez Sweat from the Commanders in a trade. But Schultz does go on to say that he thinks at the right price, Washington will consider to make one of these moves. The Commanders won't likely pay either of these guys long-term deals, which means the San Francisco 49ers may have the opportunity to pounce on either one of these guys. And as you guys know, I've been a big proponent of the 49ers trading for Brian Burns. But as it's been reported, it doesn't appear that the Carolina Panthers are willing to move Brian Burns, at least at this point, based on a report by Dan Graziano of ESPN. So the Brian Burns dream may not come to fruition, but that doesn't mean we can't change and pivot to additional defensive line help. I believe the 49ers need to put more prolific edge help on the other side of Nick Bosa. And with one of these two players, Chase Young or Montez Sweat, I think they both fill and fit a need that could come in and be a benefit right away and continue to bolster this defensive line depth and effectiveness moving forward into this season. So the question becomes, which defensive end should the 49ers go after and target? If it's only going to take a second or third rounder, you do it. You go and do it. The 49ers have 11 picks heading into this draft, a bunch of compensatory picks. They have picks to move, and so they can go out and be aggressive. And if you're only going to need to give up a second or a third to get a defensive end of this caliber, you go and do it. You really don't have to think too hard about it. But the question becomes, who do you want to go get? I'll make the case for both, and then at the end, we'll decide which one the 49ers should target. Let's start with Montez Sweat. Montez Sweat is 27 years old. He's 6'6, 262 pounds. He was a first round draft pick selected number 26th overall by the Washington Commanders in 2019. So he was actually taken in the same draft as Nick Bosa. He was taken after Brian Burns. And one of his big claims to fame during that draft season and that draft process was he ran a 4.440. He is very fast. He broke the record for the combine for speed at the defensive end at the time, and he tested through the roof. So Montez Sweat has not only the numbers, the size, and everything you want from the edge, he also adds in production. So he's not just a underwear Olympic champion. He can actually play, and he can go out and get after the quarterback. Just in this year alone, Montez Sweat has 7 sacks, 12 quarterback hurries, 4 quarterback hits, and has 23 total pressures. So Montez Sweat, to me, if you're looking for a speed element, this might be the guy that's next best in line to Brian Burns. Obviously, the reason why I wanted Brian Burns is because of the speed and twitch that he possesses, and getting that speed on the opposite side of Nick Bosa, it will be just enough for quarterbacks to potentially either move off their spot or be a second slow in processing because they're worried about the first step quickness of the defensive end on the other side of Nick Bosa. So Montez Sweat potentially has a big opportunity to get traded. And if he does, he would be a pretty sweet fit on the other side of Nick Bosa. He has 38 sacks in his career, over 193 total pressures, and 120 tackles throughout his 5-year career with the Washington Commanders. So he could be a great option. But also, the 49ers could potentially go after Chase Young, who has the higher draft pedigree. He was the number 2 overall pick in 2020 out of Ohio State. He is also much younger. He is going to be a free agent this year. So you would be effectively buying a rental player. So you would have to pay him at the end of the year. But Chase Young is 24 and a half years old, 6'5, 264 pounds, and he is a quality player. He only played in 6 games this year. He missed the first game. And as we know, Chase Young has missed a decent amount of time after suffering the ACL injury, and is partly due to why the Washington Commanders declined his 5th-year option and doesn't appear to look to re sign him. So he could be a potential option. And this is what Chase Young has done in this season. Chase Young has 6 sacks in 6 games. He has 35 total pressures and 24 quarterback hurries, 5 quarterback hits. He has 1 batted ball, 7 tackles. So he could be an option as well for the San Francisco 49ers and reunite him with his former teammate, Nick Bosa, from the Ohio State days. So the 49ers have 2 options here that could potentially become available for the 49ers. And when you look at Chase Young over his 4-year career up until this point, he's got 14 sacks. So it becomes a decision. Who would you rather have? I think Chase Young is the popular name, but I do think Montez Sweat fits what the 49ers are looking for on the opposite side of Nick Bosa. Again, the speed element. His ability to rush off the edge with speed could be a huge asset to put on the other side of Nick Bosa. Maybe he's cheaper than Chase Young because he's a little bit older, doesn't have the same draft cachet. I don't know. But I think if I had to choose, and it would be a hard choice, I don't think it's an easy choice between Chase and Montez. But I think I'm leaning towards Montez right now because, like I've said before, he fits more of that Brian Burns mold that I'm looking for in regards to a natural speed rusher. So I think I'm leaning a Montez Sweat, but let me know who you're leaning and who the San Francisco 49ers should trade for out of these 2 players, Chase Young, Montez Sweat. Let me know in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.